what Reverend and Mrs. Jackson have been having us do for more than 50 years, which is give away food. Give away food, because they remember having been in food lines themselves. But also because we are People United to Serve Humanity. We service people in need. So everybody, put your hands together. I need some stadium voices and enthusiasm. Come on, everybody. Act like you're glad that God got you up this morning. Come on now. Aren't you glad you didn't miss a birthday this year? Oh, I didn't hear you. All right now. Come on, is the push on? Come on, James Cleveland gave us. Come on, choir, give it to us. Come on, everybody. The push is on. The push is on. Reverend Vicki Johnson. Connie, fun town for the kids and you. 95th and Stony Avenue. Connie? She sang that song. Come on, everybody, give it up. Come on. You thought I didn't remember, didn't you? Get out of here. I'm from here. Everybody, this is Founders Day. It's been Founders Month, but I'm going to have our choir have a seat because we got a lot of things we got to pack in today, okay? But you all going to come back and sing for us. We are excited about that. But you know, you've been a part of this organization 60 years. You know we have to move things around. Amen? Because it is Education Day as well. You know Reverend Jackson has had education and international affairs. His ministry has covered everything. But of course, many people, and of course, one of the founders of our Push for Excellence program is Dr. Joanne Roberts. Give her some love, everybody. Oh, you can do better than that. One of the first black superintendents of a major school district in the United States. And we're going to be talking about that today because the U.S. News and World Report said that our system is number 1, but the fact is we're actually 13th. And we're lagging behind in mathematics, and we're lagging behind in the sciences, and yet our universities are the most prestigious in the world. How is that? And how is it that we do not have access to them? How is it that our land-grant colleges in the black college system are owed more than $16 billion? I said $16 billion. How is it that education is only 3% of our budget? How? That's why we're here today. That's why we're here today. As we are talking about Gaza, because indeed you do know that when Reverend and Mrs. Jackson stepped out here on Gaza, we had a no-talk policy, and we took real hits for that. But it was the right thing to do. Mrs. Jackson flew to New York and challenged then Ambassador Andrew Young to meet with the Palestinians. She said, do it back channel. He said, Jackie, I will lose my job. She said, what would Martin do? Well, he did meet with them and he did lose his job. And the first place that he came to appear was Operation Push. Because effectively he was pushed out of the country, Miss Brent. He could not make a dime in the United States. Just as Maynard Jackson, because of the revolution that he sparked in Atlanta and the South, he had to come to Chicago because he could not make a dime in Atlanta. Come on, give it up for Maynard Jackson, everybody. Our brother beloved. Just giving you a little bit of history here. This is why you're here today. And so we're going to be we're going to be led by Dr. Sonia Whitaker, one of the leaders of our Push for Excellence program. She has something that she brought up with Mrs. Jackson last week that many of us escaped. You know Judge Greg Mathis, and you know Reverend Jackson met him when he was in jail because Reverend has been going and speaking at jails for years. Not for pay, but because it's the right thing to do, because we're there. Well, she said, what about our children who are incarcerated? You do know that you are supposed to be educated until 18 or 21, depending upon the state that you're in. We're not thinking about our children. The Pell Grants were withdrawn from our incarcerated citizens from the 1994 crime bill. I repeat, the 1994 crime bill made it illegal to give Pell Grants to our people. So while on others thou art calling, President Biden, you need to pardon and commute the sentences of everybody you helped imprison in 1994. Can I get an amen? Oh, I didn't hear you. So let us get to it. Indeed, so many people have been touched and they have worked here. I see a beauty queen amongst us. Stand up, fabulous one, glittering this one. Mrs. Middle West. Okay. Beauty goals. Thank you, girl. Senator Robert Peters. Of course, he is part of our family. Come on, everybody. I'm not hearing you this morning. The people in radio land need to hear you this morning. The people in television land need to hear you this morning. Congressman Jonathan Jackson is here. Senator Peters, please come before us because we need to hear from you. Everybody give it up for Senator Robert Peters.
Good morning. Well, my voice is booming here this morning. I hope it wakes everybody up. I want to talk about the prison, the school to prison pipeline. I want to talk about it from a trip that I recently took. Earlier in December, I went to Northern Ireland. I went to Belfast. And I don't know if you know the history of Northern Ireland and Belfast, but for years, really 400 years, the British had colonized Ireland. And when it split, Northern Ireland was split off from the rest of Ireland. And it led to a very serious and terrible sectarian violence, where people were fighting and bombing and killing each other constantly for years, and it blew up for a 30 to 40 year period between the 70s and into the 90s, all the way up to about close to 2000, so mid 90s. And it was brutal. Catholics in Northern Ireland are very similar to black and brown people in the United States. Segregated, not allowed to go to the same schools as Protestant British folks, incarcerated at a greater rate. They would be pushed out of jobs. When a Catholic person would go to a job, a Protestant person would literally try to tank them to get them fired. Oftentimes when we talk about this stuff here in the United States, we don't tend to think about other parts of the world that may have similar stories. And I was very excited to go to Northern Ireland because in the 90s they had what's called a Good Friday Agreement, a peace agreement built on integrating Northern Ireland and finding a sense of common ground. And it hasn't necessarily been the easiest thing that has happened. But one thing that came out of it that was truly transformational is that they believe in the practice of restorative justice. Every kid has a right to restorative justice. If a kid acts out, the prosecutor, the judge, their job is to look out for that kid. It is the opposite of what we do here. There is no school to prison pipeline in Northern Ireland. This is an embarrassment as an American because politicians like the easiest way out. It's not about looking out for the people most in need. It's not looking out for people experiencing the brutality of segregation. So I talked to a judge, the justice minister, the cops, all these people in Northern Ireland, and they said the first thing that we have to think about is restorative justice and how do we put the kid first. And I said, that's what we need here. We have an opportunity to raise the age of incarceration in Illinois from 13 to 14, which is a human right that comes out of the UN. We have an opportunity to expand MAP grants for people who are incarcerated so that they can get an education. And we have to think about public safety broader than most Americans have been told public safety works. We have to think about the fact that if you give someone a good house, you give someone a good job, you get them from point A to point B, you get them stability, you get them a good education, you have public safety. South Shore deserves the same level of care as the North Shore. That is our fight. So I'm going on, I'm preaching too much, though I'm not a preacher, but I am a politician, so I like a mic. I just want to say thank you all for the work that you do. Thank you, Push, for the work that you do. We have a lot of work ahead of us. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
It's a reunion. Praise the Lord, everybody. Come on, put your hands together with Senator Robert Peters. And thank you for that. You know, there are women who are still cracking the glass ceiling all over the country. And we do that so well in Illinois. You think of course, Senator Carol Moseley Braun. You think of, yes, Jane Byrne, yes. You think of Lori Lightfoot, yes. But we thank God for our comptroller, Susanna Mendoza. Well, as we welcome her, we are speaking not just to Illinoisans, we are speaking to people all over the country. Our government have services that they provide for us, and we need to know what they are and know how to access them. Everybody put your hands together for our comptroller here in the state of Illinois, Susanna Mendoza.
Well, good morning and Merry Christmas to all of you. It is truly my pleasure to be here amongst all of you, wishing you happy holidays, Christmas season, remembering why and who and what we celebrate at Christmas time, our Lord, right? Amen. It is my pleasure, and I would say my privilege, to have gotten to serve you over the last 8 years in the role of controller. Many of you might be wondering, what is the controller? The controller is the state's chief fiscal officer. I pay all of the state's bills, manage all of the state funds. And while everything is running smoothly right now, it's like butter, it wasn't like that when I first ran. In 2016, you might remember how bad things were in the state of Illinois. We didn't have a budget for 736 days, which meant we couldn't pay our bills. people had to sue the state of Illinois to get paid. The average person waiting to get paid by the state of Illinois when I was elected to serve you, the average delay was 210 business days. If this organization, Operation Push, got state funding, they didn't get state funding because even though they were supposed to, they were delayed 210 days on average. If we have children with disabilities and the people that cared for them, they were waiting 2 to 3 years to be paid by the state of Illinois. Businesses, especially small businesses across our state, closed their doors. And people had to double, triple mortgage their homes if they had one, just to keep things going. It was a travesty, and that's why I ran to serve you in this role, and I thank you, and I always give my blessings that you sent me there to fight for you. When I heard the number earlier about 16 billion, remember that number? When I walked into office, I inherited a backlog of unpaid bills. Those bills I was telling you were 210 days on average delayed, of $16.7 billion of unpaid bills. The worst in the nation. It was literally, I think, the toughest job. But I promise you that if you sent me there to fight for you, not only was I going to stand up to that guy, we tried to forget him, Bruce Rauner, but we're going to turn it around. And we're going to get people paid on time. We're going to save people's businesses, and we're going to save people's lives. Because that's what the state of Illinois is supposed to do. And I remember saying I was going to help lead us to our first credit upgrade in over 20 years, and people probably thought I was nuts. But I believe in the power of prayer. And when I took my oath of office, the first words that come out of my mouth were, please pray for me and pray for our state, because this is going to be a tough job, and I'm going to need the power of prayer. And so, yeah, it is true. It's very powerful. So the good news is that, we are moving in the right direction, but much more so than that. We are growing, we are expanding, and we are paying people now faster than ever in the state of Illinois. Just for fun, we went from 210 days of not paying people to what do you think is my oldest bill today in the controller's office? $20. No, that's the smallest bill, maybe. No, the longest someone has to wait today to get paid in my office is 14 days. Yep. So there's not a single not-for-profit out there right now who's waiting to get paid. We are prioritizing the most vulnerable people in the state first. They're the very first to get paid. When I tell you that my oldest bill is 14 days, that means some people are getting paid literally the day that I get the voucher. It's always the people who need the help the most that are at the front of the line under my administration. And I promised you one that I would send us our first credit upgrade, and I've worked so hard not to deliver just 1 or 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, even 8. We now have 9 full credit upgrades on my watch as your controller. And when our credit increases, that means our borrowing costs decrease. It means we get more product for less cost. So credit ratings are really important. They may not seem sexy, but I'm trying to bring sexy back to the controller's office. And we had $48,000 in the state's rainy day fund when I took office. $48,000, and I had a bill backlog of almost $17 billion. But today, we have $2.2 billion in our state's rainy day fund, and we're growing it every day. We need more. Now, it sounds like a lot of money, but it's not, because $2.2 billion only gets us about 15 days worth of government operations in case of an economic emergency. And the average state in the nation has 46 days worth of reserves. So $2.2 billion is the most we've ever had, but we're not where we need to be yet. So you're going to hear me keep saying we need to do more. We need to be more fiscally responsible. We need to protect the most vulnerable in our community. And the way we do that is by actually growing our rainy day fund so that in the event of an economic emergency, that money is there to protect the budget, which is a moral document of what we feel is important to take care of our people, right? So, rainy day fund up. The bill backlog completely paid down 3 years ago. No more $16.7 $4.7 billion backlog. I paid it down before getting a penny of federal ARPA stimulus dollars in the door. Just good old-fashioned smart financial management. That's what we're doing in the state of Illinois. So we paid off our bills, we're paying faster than ever, we have the biggest rainy day fund in our history, and we've received 9 credit upgrades. So I'm just gonna ask you for one more thing. Keep me in your prayers. Keep praying for the health and success of our state, for the health and success of our city, for the kids, our seniors, anyone who's breathing or living. They need good governance, and with our prayers, we'll hopefully elect the right people to keep doing that. This isn't election time, it's accountability time. And it's my time to come and say thank you for all the blessings you've given me. I want to thank Reverend Jackson for the amazing leadership that he has given not just our city and our state, but our country, frankly, the world, right? Frankly, the world. And I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. God bless you and keep you always. Thank you.
Come on, give it up for our comptroller, Susana Mendoza. Oh, we do things right in the state of Illinois, everybody. And so it is now time for our panel as we talk about education today. Of course, we are now renowned all across the country and around the world for our Push for Excellence program. Do you remember when Reverend was featured on Lou Grant giving a Push for Excellence rally? Remember when we filled the Superdome in New Orleans? Oh yeah, education is key. It's key, it's key, it's key, but not just academic. The trades are important. We've got to get back on track, everybody. So, without further ado, we bring to you a sister beloved. Indeed, another person who's helped to crack these glass ceilings. Let's give it up for author, speaker, educator par excellence, Dr. Sonia Whitaker of the Push for Excellence program. Give it up.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much for giving us your gifts their time. We're going to jump right in the program today because we have a lot to talk about. Before I do so, as has been indicated, I'm Dr. Sonia Whitaker on both sides, on the Push Excel and Rainbow Push side. And I would like to ask my panelists to introduce to you who they are.
Good morning. Oh, I'm a school teacher, so you have to do better than that. Good morning. I am blessed to be here this morning. I am Dr. Teresa D. Dunbar, and I am the superintendent for the state of Illinois in School District 428, and my youth are up and down the state, unfortunately, incarcerated, but getting the best that we have while they are with us. My pleasure to be here with you today.
And I want to say, before I have my other panelists introduce themselves, it is indeed a pleasure and an honor for her to receive approval from the governor's office to be with us here today. I'm excited to bring to you all and raise your conscience and knowledge about our youth who are incarcerated, and to have Dr. Dunbar here who manages that for our entire state is indeed a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
And my name is Bilal Evans. I'm founder and executive director of the Restorative Project, a community-based organization whose mission is to create safer neighborhoods in the inner city by changing the way that young people, black and brown, deal with trauma.
And so I know we don't normally do this, but I'm going to ask you to repeat after me. And how are the children? And how are the children?
And how are the children?
Now I want you to repeat. All the children are well.
All the children are well.
And what I love about that, for those of you who do not know, there is a tribe in Africa, and the name of this tribe is the Maasai tribe. And in this tribe, what I love most about them is they pride themselves on the fact that every time they greet one another, instead of saying, hey, what's up, how you doing, they ask, and how are the children? And regardless of whether or not they have children that live in their village, they want to always be able to respond, all the children are well. And so that's what we're here to talk about today, about the children in our country and the communities that we live and serve. Here's what we know. What we know is just over a week ago, the President of the United States of America pardoned, he made a single day act something that had never been done before in our country, and that is he commuted the sentences of 1,500 adults and pardoned 39 others. And then I said to myself, and how are the children? And I was reminded that one of the people that he pardoned was the judge that was actually involved in one of the biggest schemes in the judicial system in U.S. history. And that scheme is referred to as Kids for Cash. What I found most interesting about his statement at his sentencing is he said, the system was not corrupt, I was corrupt. And so I'm here. Since that day, I have not stopped thinking, I told you last night, about Harriet Tubman and her intent to free our people, and that she did. And so I'm going to ask my panelists and those of you who are within the sound of my voice, what is our obligation to our vulnerable? Don't we believe that they deserve the same level of grace and mercy? Can you talk to me about and to us about why this topic is so important to you, relevant to the work that you do?
Absolutely. Just for a second, if I can, out of order, I want to give grace and order and love to the back of an elder, to those that shoulders I stood on. I'm profoundly grateful to see her this morning. I'd like to say good morning and honor Dr. Joanne Roberts, one of the best, one of the greatest, one of the finest. Now, y'all got to do better than that, because you don't know what this woman went through. She was a superintendent, one of the first blacks. So I just want to say thank you, because I appreciate you. I currently serve as the superintendent of schools for the state of Illinois, School District 428. My youth are incarcerated from 13 to 21. They are all up and down the state, every corner of Illinois. And what I know for sure is this, that no one is irredeemable. I know for sure that although they may have committed heinous crimes, they still deserve to be rehabilitated. There is still hope and mercy. And as I think about what I do, why this is so important to me is the fact that I get to interact with them every day. You see, many of us in this room, we had second chances. We did some things, we didn't get caught. But what happened to my youth was that they had environments where they came up in, and these environments drove them to do these things, okay? So I want you to hear me this morning when I say to you that no one at 13 years old commits triple murder and rape and doesn't get that from somewhere. Understand? So as adults, it is our responsibility and our fault in some ways. As the superintendent of schools, what my children receive, what they deserve, what they desire, and what they do get under my watch is a full complement of educational services. I am a real superintendent with real teachers, certified, qualified, psychologists, counselors, and my children go to school every day and receive a full complement of educational services. That's why it's important, because it could have been me.
And so thank you for sharing that, and we're going to go a little bit more into that in a second regarding the type of academic experience students don't receive in those places, other places, and what they should be receiving. Why is this topic so important to you? I'm glad about the contribution you're able to make to this discussion, sir.
Well, for me personally, I am very familiar with 428. At 17 years old, I was convicted of first-degree murder under the Burgess and his cronies, sent to prison and spent 15 years in prison for a crime that I didn't commit. And I got my GED while I was in prison in District 428. They sent me to prison at 17, so it was a little bit different back then.
And so one of the reasons why I thought it was important for you to contribute is you talked about restorative justice and what that means in terms of your work in this space. So can you take just a minute to talk about the importance of that for young adults who intend to return to society?
Well, I heard a wise person once say that it takes a village to raise a child. But when the children of the village feel like they're being ignored, they burn it down just to feel its warmth. And so these young men are a product of that. we talk about slavery as if its effects were so far off, and physically it was, but the mental change still remained. We've traded in the regular whips and chains for the Cadillacs, the Lexuses, the Mercedes whips, and the platinum chains. So we still bound.
Wow.
And if they say when the blind leads the blind, they fall into a ditch. These young people weren't given the right necessary guidance because of the effects of slavery. And so that residual effect affects these young people now. And some of the kids, and when I go and visit into the youth facilities, it's like, you know, education is offered, but it's not mandatory. So these young men sit in front of the TVs and watch the videos because they have no guidance. And then they spend those 3 or 4 years until they time out at 21, and they come home to the same thing that they left.
Let me pull from that. I think that that is a perfect lead into where we need to go next. Here's what else we know. We know that researchers suggest that jail cells are built based on third grade students' test scores. And as an educator, I'm aware of the research, arguably, that if a child is not reading at or above grade level by the time he or she reaches third grade, they are highly likely to struggle academically throughout their entire academic career. And what happens as a result of that, we find that Black and brown and children experiencing the impact of poverty, which include white children, often find themselves overrepresented in disciplinary procedures and the like, and underrepresented in gifted education. And so I would like to advance the conversation to what we also know is that far too many of the children that are in the juvenile centers are Black children and brown children, which caused me to ask, if we didn't get it right in the traditional public school setting, and we know they're with you, what is our fundamental obligation to make sure that they're educated? And then, as you've alluded to, and I'll pass the mic, it's different in every state in America. In some states, it is required that they have an academic experience that is clearly spelled out and articulated to their parents, and in others, it is not. In your system, I think we should talk about what's happening in your system, because what we don't want to do is just admire problems. We want to offer suggestions. So you got 1 minute to do that.
So in my school district, education is mandated. School is mandated until the time they are 17, which is regular, and they can opt out. What we find is that about a little bit over 50% of them right now are special needs. Okay, and so that's all kind of things, emotional disturbance and other health impairments, etc. When they come to us, what we find is that they are irregular. They are up in arms. When they settle down, we find that this is the first time that they've had any source of love, connection, affection, and they want to go to school. That's the difference. So what do we offer them? We make sure to offer them a full complement of certified teachers so that we can test them, assess them, talk to them about their skills, and make sure that they get more, not less. And I will say this, it is a shame that the budget for a superintendent of schools for the state of Illinois for incarcerated youth is probably triple that of a regular public schools. So we know that when they're here, they're not getting it, but when they're there, I have more to give them, which means more psychologists, double the teachers, double the academic enrichment classes, double the skills, double the curriculum and instructional time. And so they're getting more. And what we find is when we drill down and meet their emotional needs at the same time, because it's a double-edged sword, okay? The mental trauma is there as well. When we address those things in tandem and connect them, then they do better.
I think that serves as a solid recommendation. I'd like to thank you. Not enough time, but much more work we have to do in this space. I want to invite you to continue to fight the good fight. Great connection made here, right in front of your very eyes. And don't forget that when we greet each other, we want to always be able to say, back to the question posed, and how are the children, that we've done our part to make sure that all the children are well.
Give it up, everybody, for Dr. Sonia Whitaker. Dr. Whitaker. As you leave from the stage, what is the name of your book?
Is there anybody who can teach me how to read?
Come on, everybody. Is there anybody who can teach me how to read? Put that under your Christmas tree, everyone. Put it under your Christmas tree. Our children in Detroit sued the Detroit public school system because they said, you did not teach me to read. A salutatorian of his class went to Florida and went to college and found out that he was functionally illiterate. That happened. So come on, everybody, give it up for our education panel. And Dr. Whitaker, we promise you we're going to have another education panel that will be extended. But I want to bring Amanda Puck, our beloved sister, up before us. Come on, everybody. The food that we have been getting from Mariano's. Come on, let's bring our sisters up here. That's right. All this woman power. You know I love that. Amanda Puck.
Oh, well, yeah, this is the girl woman power up here. I just really want to say thank you from all of us at Mariano's for having us here with you in the community. We're so excited. I loved listening to all of you sing the last few weeks, and we're happy to be here with everyone and making connections with some of our officials and, of course, the Jackson family and everyone here at Rainbow Push. I really want you to give a round of applause, though, to Lucy and Nayeli, who have organized all of the food giveaway that's been here for the last 3 weekends. So we're providing groceries. We have a great fresh chicken. We're really excited. So thank you. And Santita, thank you for having us.
You know, and before you go, let me thank you and Mariano's, because I remember as a child, Jonathan, you remember this too, excuse me, Congressman Jackson. Our father and mother used to take us, Connie, all of you remember, going to stores where we would see flies on rotting meat. And we always wondered when we would get really, really great grocery stores, upscale stores. Now, we all went to the Collins grocery store, right? You remember that? But we thank you for respecting our community enough to bring the best food to us. Give it up, everybody, for Mariano's. Thank you. Come on, give it up. Now, keep your hands together. I'm about to bring someone before you who we already know and love. Someone that all of you helped to raise. But I think he turned out all right. The former national spokesman for the Rainbow Push Coalition, our Congressman, Jonathan Luther Jackson.
Good morning. Great to be back home. I have missed you all. I understand what they mean by the swamp in D.C. now. First, giving respect to my father and mother, Reverend Jesse Jackson, for all their great work and having created this platform, this institution, where our communities can get together to give you a perspective. I just got back in this morning from having been in Washington for the last 2 weeks. And let me just give you a short thing of what's happened in 2 weeks, and then specifically I want to talk about something you may be interested in on the budget crisis, the one that was just averted and the one that's coming. In the last 2 weeks, and you know the Rudyard Kipling poem on If, the challenge to walk amongst kings and also keep the common touch, that one morning you're meeting at a table with Mr. Bill Gates, one of the wealthiest men in the world, who has a philanthropy that doles out almost $9 billion a year to deal with health crisis. Here's an individual that's found his fortune in high technology, but yet now is the second largest resource for health care around the world. What an individual is doing. So when you talk about this order of magnitude of wealth that's out here, and you talk about income inequality, some people are just either not understanding, or some people are just a plain fool. Now, when they talk about wealthy people, I step to the side because I know they're not talking about me monetarily. So when we talk about raising taxes, some people need to understand on who exactly should be paying taxes. And I thank God for the philanthropy and the generosity and the compassion of Mr. Gates, having singularly decided to do this and has stepped in front of all governments and wealthy people around the world. And the impact he is making on Africa has been absolutely tremendous and needs to be applauded. I've sent him a letter and I'll be glad to share that with you. I spent the last 2 years on the Foreign Affairs Committee for the United States Department of Representatives. In those 2 years, in the last 2 hours of having breakfast with a group of people, congressmen at the US Capitol, with Mr. Bill Gates, he spoke of Africa more in 2 hours than I've heard in the Foreign Affairs Committee in 2 years. I just want to give you the facts. And then to have traveled to Africa several times now on foreign affairs, Mr. George W. Bush is enormously popular in Africa. There is a piece of legislation called PEPFAR on the Preparedness for Emergency Relief. Mr. George Bush is singularly solely responsible with other members of the Black Caucus and members of the Congress in passing the legislation that has saved over 25 million Africans with a piece of legislation. This thing can have some strange twists and turns. So I'm just telling you, if you see me talking to some people, I want you to know why. Don't judge me until you know what we got out of the deal. And I'm going to talk over here and talk over there, and people say, why are you talking to the right wing? I said, because I come from a hard-hit district on the south side of Chicago that has one of the highest concentration of safety net hospitals in the entire nation. Safety net hospitals simply means it's the lowest level of care in order to be designated as a hospital. So when we don't have maternity wards designated in our hospitals, when Black women have mortality in birth that are 3 times the national average, when we have West Englewood, where life expectancy of Black men, as we've seen from our young brother today, that was a 17-year-old tortured victim of John Burge, that's an outrage and should be taken before the United Nations. That's human rights abuse right here in our own city. When we've got life expectancy discrepancy between 60, 65 years in West Englewood and 90 years in the Streeterville neighborhood, 25 to 30 years, that's outrageous. When we've got an outbreak of HIV and hepatitis in South Shore and no one's talking about it, and we see brand new hospitalizations being increased all around this city, all around this country, $1 and $6 in the United States now is spent in health care, and we don't have hospitals going up in our neighborhood. Is it that we're too Black, too poor, don't deserve to live? There's a fight coming. Now let me be very focused in my conversation now on what is happening in Washington, D.C. We just got through passing what is called a CR, a continuing resolution. All that simply means is the president puts forth a budget and the Congress has the right to approve it to continue the funding. When they don't agree to the budget, we have to do a continuing resolution to say the checkbook will remain open. So what should happen is you should propose a budget and the Congress should fund it. That's only happened 3 times in the last 47 years. So we're going every 90 days for continuing resolutions to keep the government opening round by round by round. What's the fight about? The fight about is who should pay and what should be the American standard of living. Now, what happened the other day, and I don't like to go off script so much, but what you saw happen yesterday is you saw President Elon Musk and Vice President Donald Trump try to hijack the Congress. Hey, Dad. Love you, Dad. Thank you for loving on Dad every day. So I was just sharing, Dad, what happened the other day in Washington, D.C. is we saw President Elon Musk and Vice President Donald Trump. President Elon Musk, and why do I call him that? Because there should be 3 branches of government: executive, legislative, and the judicial. But then there's also what's sometimes called the 4th branch of government, which is called media. Because media can distort the view from which you see. And that's all that you can say, that from what I see and from what you believe. So when you start getting these seats, you have to condition your words very carefully, because people say, but that's what you said. So you have to say, this is what I understand to be the truth at this time from what you've told me. Before you quote me on what they said that they left out. It was not the omission, it was the omission of what they didn't say. So stay focused. Mr. Musk has contempt for the institution of government. Mr. Trump has a misunderstanding of the institution of government and not much regard for it. So now what Mr. Trump has put together, President Trump-elect, we still have a sitting president in Joe Biden. What they have done is now they are filling the cabinet with the richest cabinet in American history. I was looking in the style section the other day. One of these undersecretaries is now buying a $38 million house. Can you imagine getting ready to take on a job where you don't need the money? You're going to town and just out of your spare change, you go buy a $38 million house in Washington, D.C. So you're wondering, why do these rich people want to be all around the power? The congressional salary is $174,000. You have to keep 2 houses. You have to pay for your own health care on the Affordable Care Exchange. There's no free health care in the Capitol that you may have thought. I believed that myself until I had to buy that $900 a month plan, and I'm thankful for that, because the government brought down $600, or at 58 I'd be paying $1,500 a month. We need to make sure we have Medicare for all. Everyone needs a break on this health care. But what you're going to see is this is contempt for government. Mr. Elon Musk has now made over $130 billion since Election Day. If you were to take his, not the last year, since Election Day, if you were to take out his earnings since Election Day and give that to some individual, that would be the 4th wealthiest person in the United States of America. How did he gain his wealth? He's born in South Africa. He said in his book that he had 2 ambitions, one of which was to electrify the nation, and the second of which was to make sure that there was another place that he could inhabit Mars, so that humans, in case we exhausted life on Earth, would have a place to go. But how did he make his money? He made his money out of the technology. In specific, there was an electric tax placed on cars that were gas in California, that every time you bought a $30,000 car, $2,000 had to go towards his electrification program in Tesla. He benefited initially from a $500 million Department of Energy government grant. That's one. In this Department of DOGE, Doge, Doggy, whatever. Misunderstanding of government. There is no Department of Government Efficiency. There will not be a Department of Government Efficiency. He just announced 2 billionaires, one of Indian ancestry, Mr. Vivek Ramaswamy, who also benefited from being minority status when he had to go to school, and now he has written a program and a book talking about he is the father of anti-wokeness. How shameful and disgraceful. Mr. Elon Musk has called these diversities initiative, he said it's racism. He's called woke racism. What's coming now is the fight of our lifetime, and I'm going to tell you something. Good news is on the way. Under the leadership of Leader Hakeem Jeffries and the Democratic Party, we shut down his goal of getting the debt limit raised. What was he trying to do? What he said was, I want to make sure you raise the limit by over $5 trillion past March 15th. I want you to raise it until 2027. No, this expires on March 15th. So this bill went through March 14th. So now when he tries to come to office and pass out another tax cut to give the first $1 trillion to his wealthy beneficiaries, now he has to say, I want to raise tax, I want to give away money and lower taxes. Good luck, Mr. President. We know your game and what you're coming for. Hakeem Jeffries said not no. He told us in our leadership meeting, hell no. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she said she was in that same meeting. And Miss Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she says, bring it on, he's gonna feel maximum pain. Congresswoman Maxine Waters was in that same meeting. She says, Donald J. Trump knows my name, and I'm waiting on him. He's gonna have a wonderful reception once he gets back into that seat. We have one president at a time, and that's President Joseph Robin Biden. It's not Donald J. Trump. And let me tell you the laugh. Keep on calling him President Elon Musk and Vice President Donald J. Trump. Remind him that Elon Musk is younger, smarter, much richer by 100 or 200 times, and then he's gonna be so mad, he's gonna tell Mr. Musk, you got to leave the stage, because there can only be one narcissist on the stage at a time. I am so excited for the fight that lies ahead. And like my father, Reverend Jesse Jackson, has always said, what are you talking about back in the civil rights days? I need you to join Rainbow Push. I need you to come here. We need to electrify the nation from right here. We are going into the storm. Elections have consequences. Some people have played a game. Mr. Trump did not win by a landslide. He won by 1.5% across the nation. In those 7 states, he only won by 761,000 votes. In those same 7 states, he won 3 by less than 100,000 that we could have won. In those same states, we had 5 million people that were unregistered to vote. In those same states, we had 7 million people, 11 million people that did not come out to vote. He is not win by a majority, he won by a plurality, not a majority. No one got 51%. The fight is on. And yesterday when I saw 38 Republicans vote against the wishes of the President of the United States, you're talking about hitting a straight lick with a crooked stick. We've got some friends on the Republican side that are opposing Mr. Donald J. Trump. I want to thank my colleague, Mr. Chip Roy in the Freedom Caucus. I may not agree with him on anything else, but he said this is asinine to think you're going to raise the debt limit and pass out more wealth to your beneficiaries. I want to thank Congresswoman Lesko, who voted against the president. These are the Republicans that are standing up. I want to thank Tim Burchett from Tennessee, people that are honorably Republicans standing up to fight for the least of these in their caucus. God bless. We've got so much to talk about. A Merry, Merry Christmas. Christ is risen. Go tell it on the mountain. Joy to the world.
Congressman Jonathan Jackson, come on. free. Come on, everybody, the Push Reunion Choir. Come on, you can do better than that. Come on, put your hands together. Put your hands together for Congressman Jonathan Jackson. As we prepare to hear our message for the day, we want to thank you, Congressman Jackson, for upholding this banner, this tradition. I want to thank you, Reverend Dr. Hatch, and we can't wait to hear from you, Dr. Ron Daniels, Deputy Director of Reverend Jackson's presidential campaigns. He wants to bring before us the history on this Founders Day, Comptroller Mendoza, because we need to understand why we're here, where we come from. But I want to thank Congressman Jackson in a special way, because as you remember, the 9 to 10 was, in 9 to 10 we talked local. 10 to 11, Reverend Jackson told us where he'd been, anywhere around the country and anywhere around the world. And when Congressman Jackson got to Congress, he told Martin Luther King III, you have a home in this office. This is the Civil Rights Office. This is the People's Rights Office. And that is what you heard. He is your product. And so give him a round of applause, everybody. Come on. Thanking God for him today. So proud of him, I don't know what to do. He's always worked so hard, and you all know he struggled. And I've seen him hold on and come forth and become such a great man. I love you, Jonathan, my baby brother. Everybody, you need to go to this church on the west side of Chicago. The largest tributes on stained glass in the world to the martyrs of the U.S. Civil Rights Movement are in this church. And we thank God for this brilliant theologian, preacher, activist. And his wife is so involved in the church. His children are ministers in the church, and they minister in the community. They live right there. We want you to get over to the new Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church, and they are missionaries at that church. And of course, he is part of the family here. We can never stop working for Reverend Jackson, can we? Come on, everybody, give it up for this brilliant preacher, the anointed Reverend Dr. Marshall Hatch, the professor. Come on, give it up, everybody. You can do better than that. Give it up.
Big sis.
Oh, bless the Lord, oh my soul, and all that within me, bless his holy name. Somebody know the Lord is still good. His mercy is everlasting, and his truth yet endures to all generations. What a marvelous, marvelous celebration and commemoration. Not just a holiday, but a holy day. These holy days, and so we're grateful. We want you to know that this is the Rainbow Push Coalition Founders Month, and you have these envelopes. My daddy was from Mississippi. He used to call them envelopes. Y'all got these envelopes, and we want to make sure that if we're not a member, we become a member of Rainbow Push. If we ever needed a push, now is the time. And so make sure you do that. That's going to be collected on the day as we continue this work in this season. And of course, we're grateful to have the one and only, our champion, the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr. Indefatigable, never gives up, never gives in. And so many of us that he has mentored down through the years. And I want you to know he looked good today. And we thank God for his life and his continuing legacy and for his incredible family. And we've heard from Congressman Jonathan Luther Jackson, who gave us an incredible report. Go ahead. What do you want? You want to tell us? We want to put these envelopes in
the basket as we come around. We already have some donations with Monty in them. Amen. Monty. In the envelope, checks, and then of course ways to give online. As always, 4 ways to give, including the QR code. And it is great. Listen, we're going to move quickly, but it has been an informative afternoon, and we're just going to deposit a word just briefly. In our tradition on these Saturday morning forums, Reverend Jackson always has a preacher. And so we want to represent that part of our tradition with the preached word on this morning. And looking just briefly, and you can read it, it's one of the great passages. It's what's my favorite passage is Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 2, and if I had a tag to that whole text, I would call it the sign of Christmas, just because of what happens in that text. Now when you read it, go home. I want you to notice the first verse. You're going to hear the name Caesar Augustus, who is the great emperor who unifies the Roman Empire on 3 continents: in Africa, in Asia Minor, and in Southern Europe. He is the emperor. He is the Almighty. He is the powerful imperial leader of a Roman Empire that is at its height, at its zenith. And we would call him, in that season, the most famous man in the world, Caesar Augustus. People would not only know his name on the 3 continents, on the far-flung provinces of the Roman Empire, they would also know what he looked like, because his face was on the coins, on the money that you use as the currency on 3 continents across the powerful Roman Empire. He had power, he had wealth, he had popularity. He was the most famous man in the world 2,000 years ago. But by the end of verse 20 in Luke 2, 1 through 20, we meet another person, a baby, who's born outside the inn to a poor family, who is moving from one small township to a place called Bethlehem to try to get the boot off their donkey, to pay their tribute, their taxes, and the woman is with child. And while they are in motion, while they are in Bethlehem, which to this day is a ghetto, she brings forth a child, and the child is wrapped in what somebody calls swaddling clothes, but really wrapped in rags, lying in an oxen trough. And my dad was a country preacher. He would put it this way: the oxen kept him warm. And so look at the contrast. The most famous man in the world in verse number 1, and verse 20, the least known person in the Roman Empire. If you were to bet the ranch on who would be the most famously known person, the most powerful person 2,000 years later, your rational thinking would have told you to bet the ranch on Caesar Augustus. But your extra rational senses, when you understand the power of God, you would have not made a choice that simple. You would have to wait and see what God is going to do with the baby wrapped in rags. So to tap somebody next to you, this how we be preaching, you know, in the tell them, don't bet the ranch yet. Don't bet the ranch yet. Don't pick the emperor too soon. And it reminds me of this season that we live in. We just heard this incredible report from our congressman telling us some of what we saw and interpreting for us how goofy. I was trying to think of a deep word. That's all I came up with. To have somebody that nobody ever elected to anything parading across the nation, across the world, as if we elected Elon Musk to anything. Who made his money in the apartheid system, the emerald mines of Zambia. Never elected to anything. Indicative of what? Indicative that America's greatest sin doesn't really have anything to do with a woman's control of her body, who people love. The greatest sin in the American culture is idolatry. The worship of money. See, the New Testament is really the beginning of the modern world, because when you read what Jesus said, he didn't say you can't serve God or the devil. He said no one can have two masters. You can't serve God and money, because the real rival that God has for the hearts of women and men is money. And here we are with a person nobody elected to anything. Talking about an immigrant parading around with one of his children on his shoulders down the halls of our Congress, disrespecting every decorum, threatening to shut down the government, claiming to be in charge of a department when only Congress can set up departments. There is no department of government efficiency. But it's because he's the richest man in the world. $400 trillion. Talking about $1 billion, 400 on its way to 400 trillion. Okay, $400 billion, almost $500 billion. Talking about obscenity. It's obscene. And to think that the poorest people in the country think that these billionaires have their interests at heart. On the west side, we call that the 3-card Molly. You've been had. You've been hoodwinked. You've been bamboozled. Dr. King, the last sermon, Reverend Jackson knows he was going to preach in his briefcase on April 4th, 1968, why America may go to hell. I would like to extend that thought from Dr. King, 1968, and suggest why America may now be in hell, or at least headed toward a state more hellish than we can imagine. How do we know we're in hell? When the poorest people catch the most hell, it means that hell has arrived. Jesus said, as you've done to the least of these, he said, the last shall be first. He said, the Spirit of Yahweh is upon me, because he has smeared me with the oil of anointing to bring good news to the poor, to the bound, the broken, the blind, the bruised. When the poorest people I discard it. It is a sign that the kingdom of God is far from us. I'm done, but we call that zip code predestination. How do we know it's a hellish system? Because I can predict the outcome of an innocent child based simply on the zip code that they were born in. Not on the content of their character, not on their gifts, not upon their intrinsic worth made in the image of God, but just simply what family they were born into and what part of the city and what side of the tracks they were born in. It's a hellish situation when even poor people hate poor people. And we lie to people. And we act as if it's all their fault that they're in the condition that they're in, when none of us set up the systems and the structures and the institutions and the institutional racism and the institutional disinvestment and the violence of disinvestment and the violence of wholesale disinvestment in communities and schools and in children. Kingdom of God is far from us. And they're the branches of government. The executive branch, the legislative branch, both houses of Congress, immunity from the Supreme Court for presidential actions. If you're not careful, it look like not only is all hope lost, but you will cash your own lot in with the evil and wickedness of the oppression and the exploitation. You will give in, you'll give up. And so many have done that. They just decide they're going to worship money too. They're going to get by any means necessary. They're going to secure the bag no matter what it costs. They're going to give up their values. They're going to give up the values taught to us by our ancestors in Baptist Training Union and in Sunday school. They're going to forget the community. They're going to forget about the village. They're going to forget about the poor and the vulnerable and the children in broken schools. And they're going to cast their lots with the winners. But I came to tell you, don't bet the bank yet. Don't give up on the baby in the manger. I almost said, can I get a witness right there? Remember, the sign of Christmas is not in the palace, not in Rome, but outside the inn in a small town of Bethlehem in a manger. There's a baby in the manger. And thank God in the midst of it all that God has a way of turning things upside down, of flipping the script, of taking us from chapter 1 to chapter 2 verse 1 to chapter 2 verse 20. And before it's over, the angels are in the air singing joy to the world, peace on earth, goodwill. God is not finished yet. Somebody say, don't give up on the baby. Oh, God is still working. Don't give up. Don't bet the bank yet. Don't give up your values. Don't give up your faith. Don't give up what you believe in. Don't give up on love. Don't give up on one another. Don't give up on the community. God is still in charge. Tap somebody and tell them, look at the sign and keep your eye on the manger. Because when you look, number one, it'll tell you it doesn't matter what you have on, but what really matters is what you have in you. The baby got on rags, but there's a spirit inside of the baby. There's an anointing inside of the baby. There's a power from the inside out. Don't worry about what you got on, but worry about what you got in you. Somebody say, look at the sign. Not only that, number two, it's not you understand who you are in the world, but it's whose you are. In other words, this baby belonged to God. Others may overlook you and others may look down and dismiss you, but I serve a God who will claim you. Can I get a witness right there? Somebody tap somebody and tell them, neighbor, he knows where you are. Amen. It's not where you are, it's who you are. It's not who they say you are, but it's who God says you are. I'm a child of God. Well, look at the sign the last time. He started out in a manger, but it's not where you start out, it's where you end up. He didn't stay in a manger, oh Lord, but he came through Bethlehem, went down in Egypt, came back to Nazareth, baptized in the Jordan, healed the sick. Oh, yes. He raised the dead, gave sight to the blind, unstopped the deaf ears. And for all the good that he did, they arrested him. They whipped him all night long. They lynched him on a tree. They buried him in a tomb. But early, somebody say early Sunday morning, he got up to the right hand of the Father. Somebody say, go tell it on the mountain, over the hill, and everywhere. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. I know he's all right. Somebody say, all right. I know he's all right.
Come on, everybody. Go tell it on the mountain. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Everywhere. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, tell it on the mount that Jesus Christ is born. Come on, sing it again. Go, go. Go tell it on the mountain. Oh, and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. I said, go, 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 go. I said, go, 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 go. I said, go, tell it on the mountain. Jesus Christ is born. Why don't you go? Tell it on the mountain. Tell it over the hills and everywhere. Ooh, tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. Go, 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 go. Tell it on the mountain. You're not done yet. Well, we got to have some history here. Amen. Go tell it on the mountain. Go tell it on the mountain that a Savior has come. Go tell it on the mountain that the good news is here. Go tell it on the mountain that we will not falter under Pharaoh. Go tell it on the mountain, everybody. Come on, everybody. Put your hands together. Thank God for Jesus today. You can do better than that. This is Founders Day. It's been Founders Month, and we could not let the moment pass as we are about to give the food, and yes, we are going to do that. But we need you to have some spiritual food. We need you to understand how and why we're here. It's amazing grace. Those of us who remember being in that theater, Christmas Day 1971, and I was sitting with the choir that day, and you all had me keep my feet in the seat because there were little mice running around. But that didn't stop us. It didn't stop Quincy Jones, may he rest in peace, from being there. It didn't stop Berry Gordy from being there, John Johnson, George Johnson, Doris Zoller, Reverend Clay Evans, our founding pastor and chairman emeritus of our board, who he gave his church an assignment. He said, you come here on Sunday, you go to Breadbasket and push on Saturday. I want you to help my son in the ministry. Yes, Reverend Evans did do that. There's a reason that he is the chairman emeritus of our board, and we thank you for being one of the founders of our music program. That is his son, the brilliant, the anointed Ralph Evans. Come on, everybody, give it up. But I'm bringing a gentleman before you who stands tall in this forest. Indeed, he is a freedom fighter. When Reverend Jackson ran for president in 84 and 88, it was not a popular thing. It was a people's movement. And that's all right. And so the people who came to us were quite precious because they were putting it all on the line too. And none more than this man, a brilliant academic, a brilliant fighter for our people and for all people who are living on the downside of advantage, who've been born on it, and who are struggling to get out from underneath it. I want you to put your hands together for our brother beloved, one of the founders of this rainbow. Do I see Dr. Jacqueline Jackson over there? Uh-oh, that's my baby sister! Go and give her some love. She is a professor over in Japan now. Did you hear that I said she's a professor at university in Japan? All right. But I want you to keep your hands together, and everybody give some love to one of the founders of this organization, the brilliant Dr. Ron Daniels. Come on, give it up, everybody.
All right, all right, all right. How's everybody feeling out there? Lord have mercy. It is good to be here. In fact, it is glorious to be here. And I just wanted to stop by because, I kind of heard out there in a little town of initially Youngstown, Ohio, now New York, that they was doing a Founders Day. And I said, you want a Founders Day, that maybe I should just drop by and have a word on Founders Day. Now, I have to do a disclaimer. Now, I'm not a historian. I'm not one of the originators. I'm not one who was here in the very beginning. There were many, many others. Not the least of which, when I think about it, the Right Reverend Willie Taplin Berry. We got to mention her name. Lord, have mercy. Got to mention her name. But I came by because of a debt. And before I talk about that debt, we just had acknowledgement of what I used to call a little Jackie. Can't gotta call it Professor Jackie now, right? But what about the brilliance? We talk about the brilliance of the leader. We talk about the brilliance of the First Lady. What about the brilliance of the Jackson family? Give it up for the First Family. Goodness. The brilliance of the First Family. And so before I get into just the meat, I just want to drop a couple of things on you just in terms of some news. Because last year on January 4th, we came to Rainbow Push for Haitian Independence Day. Now, we didn't do that sentimentally just to celebrate the fact that Haiti was the first black republic. That's worth celebrating. But we came also because the United States of America owes Haiti a debt. A debt that has not been paid because it was Haitian troops who fought at the Battle of Savannah in the Revolutionary War, one of the most crucial battles. Henri Christophe was one of the generals who fought in that battle. There would not have been the doubling of the United States of America had it not been for the Haitian revolutionaries who defeated the armies of Napoleon Bonaparte. And Napoleon threw up his hands and said, them Negroes down there acting up and carrying on so bad, we'll give you Louisiana for a song and a dance. It doubled the size of the United States of America. So we're not talking about charity, we're talking about a debt that this nation owes to the first black republic in the world. Now, if I emphasize it, it's because we're also in a moment of crisis. One of our most brilliant theoreticians and practitioners' name is Dr. Maulana Karenga. Dr. Maulana Karenga is the creator of Kwanzaa. And he has said over and over and over again, the key crisis in black life is the cultural crisis. The cultural crisis. A sense of knowing who we are as a people and from whence we've come and what we have contributed to the world. That's Dr. Maulana Karenga. And so when we come talking about Haiti, we should understand the contribution that Haiti made. An incredible contribution, which we will talk about later. But I'm here today to talk about Haiti because Haiti's in crisis. Haiti's on fire. And one of the leaders who always acknowledged the contribution of Haiti and fought to see that Haitians had a right to come to this country and to thrive was none other than the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson. Always. Whenever I'm traveling around the country, somebody says, Reverend Jackson's calling. What's happening with him? What's happening with Haiti? Haiti, because he understands the centrality of Haiti in our history. As Bob Marley said, we must understand our history, because none but us will free us, our minds. Haiti's in crisis. We talked about that last year. We came right here to Rainbow Push. Not accidentally. We could have gone somewhere else. We came here for a reason. I came here for a reason because I also owe a debt to the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson. What it has done for me in my life and my ability to lead at a certain level. And I know what the value of Rainbow Push is. I know the value of Rainbow Push. And I am committed as a member of the extended family, I hope, to working in whatever I can to make sure that it is maintained beyond the recognition and the sentimentality and the anniversaries. Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson is not interested in that necessarily. It is about continuity. It is about the essential need for the Rainbow Push Coalition now. So we came here. And so when we came here last year, we had a panel. Some of you were here. I know that one of the ladies out in the audience, you do all that work in Haiti, so forth and so on. And we talked about the tragedy that's going on in Haiti, where the gangs are taking over and things are getting, Haiti's almost a failed state. And right here, the United States of America is doing little or nothing about it. And one of the people who was at that panel, one of them, there is now a transitional government in Haiti in which a rotating presidency is established. One of the people that was right here at Rainbow Push is now serving as the president of Haiti right now. That's who we brought here to the Rainbow Push. And I hope on January 4th, because on January 4th, we're coming back. We're coming back again because we need President Biden as he goes out the door. He is rushing aid to Ukraine, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. But if Ukraine, why not Haiti? They say it's already been authorized. Well, we found a statute where he has the ability to use emergency power to get aid to Haiti. The most recent atrocity in Haiti is 184 seniors were slaughtered, massacred by these gangs. So on January 4th, we want to blow the door off of the White House with phone calls saying, President Biden, we need emergency aid for Haiti right now. Now, there are many other things we also want to talk about really quickly that Biden also needs to do. One of the great friends of the Rainbow Push Coalition is Congressman John Conyers. Y'all know that. For many, many years, one of his favorites, Congressman John Conyers. Congressman Conyers did many things, but among them he is the architect of H.R. 40. Not just the study bill, the bill to study and develop reparations proposals. It's not just a study bill. It is almost there. Biden could have an Emancipation Proclamation moment if he was bold. He could enact it by executive order now. Now, the guy in there might reverse it, but that's okay because that will help you to understand who he is. Because apparently he fooled a few black people who kind of thought that he was their savior. Now they'll clearly understand. But there's something else he could do as he goes out the door. This was already referenced. You know, we have lots of people in this country who deserve to be pardoned. A lot of them that deserve to be. There's a woman, if you look her up, her name is Marilyn Mosby from down in Maryland. Prosecutor, strong, powerful sister. Made a couple of mistakes along the way. She deserves to be pardoned. If you could pardon your son, and you should have pardoned your son, then you got to pardon Marilyn Mosby. If you could pardon your son, then why not pardon the son of the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson, Jesse Jackson Jr.? Why not? You owe a debt to the whole Jackson family. Pay that debt, right? And now let me give you a controversial one because I don't understand why you could pardon people like on that list that were just referenced. The greatest mass organizer in the history of black America and the world's name is Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Why can't you pardon Marcus Mosiah Garvey? Reverend Jesse Jackson would do that. He was bold enough to do that. I heard someone today talking about, giving Trump a pardon. Well, I said, whoa, why ain't you talking about Garvey? Second thing, quickly let me just say, the whole question of Biden in office is now, we also need to get that ceasefire done in Gaza. A ceasefire in Gaza. The atrocious war against the Palestinian people. Right here in the campaign, it was Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson who first gave us the guts and the courage to stand side by side with the Palestinian people saying they have a right to a homeland. They have a right to freedom and justice. And it has been denied to them. So why not, Biden, as you go out the door, make sure that there is a ceasefire, and we understand that he is in fact working on that. So now let me quickly just say a word about push. And my concern has to do with what we need at this moment in history. Because as Congressman Jonathan Jackson has laid out, we have a difficult road ahead. But we have a leader who produced one of the greatest organizations in the history of the United States of America and the world, in the person of Reverend Jesse Jackson. I'm from a little small steel town called Youngstown, Ohio. People don't know a lot about Youngstown, but that made a little name for myself out there in Youngstown, Ohio, among activists all over the country. But guess what? Out in Youngstown, Ohio, and all across black America and all across the world, the one thing we knew on Saturday morning, all of us knew, you don't call this man on Saturday morning. Why you ain't calling him on Saturday morning? Because on Saturday morning in this house, in that auditorium, we all knew that there would be thousands of people in this citadel where the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson would be not holding court, providing information, inspiration, and an action plan. That's what Reverend Jesse Jackson would be doing. And the reason I say that is because we need that now more than ever before. The genius also of having what we just heard, because his brilliance is, he understood that we don't just operate from the head, we operate from the heart. So you can give information, you can give lectures, you can give talks and all the facts and the figures, but that's not who we are as African people. We are an intuitive people. We feel things, right? We are spiritual people. So what he did was, Reverend, it's quite appropriate. He created, in effect, movement church. This is movement church, where you could come. You know, you come off the battlefield. You're weary, you're tired, and you've been working hard, but you could come on Saturday and get a feeling of spiritual and cultural enrichment. Then get your information, and then get your marching orders, and then you could join the movement church right here. That's not inconsequential, because we need it now more than ever. We need that auditorium next door filled. Well, maybe can't go quite back, but these 500-600 people ought to always be here. Because as we look at the national scene right now, given the crisis we face, thank God for Jonathan Jackson. But you got a series of organizations doing work, but we're not hearing the name of Rainbow Push in the middle of that. That's not acceptable to me as a son of this movement. And I'm coming as a strategist saying we need the voice of Rainbow Push. So we need people to organize around some of the ideas, because it was Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson who also, came talking about the concept not only of civil rights, but what? Silver rights. Understanding that we had evolved, that the nature of what Rainbow Push was really about was economic justice and economic emancipation. So among the things that he did, some people have forgotten about it. We need to reclaim and remember those black expos that used to be all over the country, black expos everywhere across this country. And what were they doing? The same thing. The information, the education, all those things that were a part of Rainbow Push. And then beyond that, he was challenging he was challenging America to share. You can't have all that wealth, America. We need some franchises for our people. Reverend Jesse Jackson went before those corporations, and he forced them to give up franchises. We had franchises everywhere produced from Rainbow Push. Hundreds of them. Not only were they just business people, they became socially responsible and socially conscious entrepreneurs. It's one thing to be of the race, it's another thing to be for the race. There's a whole lot of Negroes out here who are cosmetically of the race, but they may not be for the race. We need people who are for the race, and they were produced through the Rainbow Push Coalition. Now beyond that, I talked about the cultural question. Our sense of who we are as a people. We've been damaged. I could come back and talk a long way about only we in America were hit, like Malcolm said. He said, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. It helped to kind of like discombobulate our internal sense of self-esteem. But along comes a Reverend Jesse Jackson. What does he say? He goes everywhere saying what? Just a simple phrase, I am somebody. Going to schools everywhere, I am somebody. Teaching us internally, having to raise us up, not only from the high to the low, in the byways and highways and the high schools, among those who are marginalized. We need that again, because we got brothers and sisters out there who do not believe that we matter. We need to say again, we are somebody. I am somebody. And beyond that, not only did he do that, he also carried with him that registration card. That registration card right there. Understanding that at the end of the day, we have to exercise our economic power, but we must also recognize our political power. And so out of Rainbow Push, I can remember coming here, and Reverend Willie Thompson Barrow saying, we have given birth to a presidential candidate. I see you, brother. I may not come back no more. Let me just finish it out, please. That we have given birth to a presidential candidate in the person of Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson. We gave birth to him. Now the point I'm here to talk about, and hope to come back on January 4th and beyond that, because I don't do this sort of like sentimentally. I've got an organization called the Institute of the Black World 21st Century. It is my legacy project. I'm working to build that because of the work of Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson. But I'm concerned that we also have a powerful, powerful Rainbow Push in the mix of things. And the last thing I'll say is this: we miss it. and Jesse and Jonathan Jackson mentioned it. The rocks just laying around. We lost this last election, and he used to often say it, by the measure of our despair or the measure of our disengagement. We have to fix that. We have to have what Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson was creating all across this country: civic education. We talked about economic literacy. We have too many people who are politically illiterate, who don't understand how the system works. And we got to make it fun, from Saturday schools and churches and whatever, teaching our people how this system works. Because at the end of the day, we are the margin of victory. Elections have consequences. This will be a hard battle. But as Jonathan Jackson says, we have the capacity to win that battle. But we're going to have to gird ourselves with cultural, political education. And we have to, in fact, work hard to keep hope alive. To keep hope alive. So forgive me for taking too long. I may not come back no more. But I just wanted to come up here and say that because I believe in this organization. I believe in Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson. I am a son of this movement. I'm an OG. I'm an ancient one. I'm in the winter of my advocacy. I'm 83 years old now, but I'm still on the battleground standing for Ron Walters and all of those who came before me. And as long as I'm out here, Reverend Jackson, it doesn't matter. I'm your son, and I'll keep hope alive.
Amen, everybody. Come on now, let's hear it for Dr. Ron Daniels. I'm thinking you have to put Ron Walters on my mind. And as we think of Reverend Willie Taplin Barrow, the little warrior, let us not forget someone whose name we do not call often enough. This woman built churches. She built fellowship. She secured Cosmopolitan Community Church for Reverend Henry Hardy. She was Reverend Evans' secretary. And Reverend Evans loved Reverend Jackson so much that Reverend, who was his youth pastor at Fellowship, he said, now that Dr. King has hired you and you're going to bring your two classmates, Gary Masoni and David Wallace, I'm going to bring this woman to you who built my church. I want to give you Lucille Conway Lohman. Oh, no, no, no. You don't know who this woman is. The reason Reverend Jackson was ordained was because of this woman. She said, no, son, now it's time for you to get ordained. So she called C.L. Franklin because she could. She lined up D.E. King and Story Freeman and all these people because she could. And she said, we're going to have a proper ordination because you are a man of God and you will be ordained, you will be credentialed. Reverend's longest serving staff member, even when we left Breadbasket, I left SELC, she stayed with him. She never left him. No one else can say that. She never left him. She never forsook him. Give it up for the mother of our movement in heaven, Lucille Conway Lohman, everybody. Give it up. Give it up. So as we prepare to leave this place, and you didn't speak too long, Dr. Daniels, you gave us history, and we thank you for that. Thank you for that, because we need that history. We all need context. Reverend's always said text without a context is a pretext for something that ain't particularly good. Congressman Jackson, thank you for bringing us the news, the story that you gave us today. We are not hearing in corporate media. We needed to know what was really going on, and thank you for coming here and letting us know what was happening. But I just want you to know, I just texted you something. President Trump is surrounded by people who are products of apartheid South Africa. It's not just Elon Musk, it's Peter Thiel. It's his former head of national security, Robert O'Brien, who went to school in South Africa. It's the ambassador to South Africa under him. She was born in South Africa. These are all people who are products. The head of CBS News internationally was South African. Yeah, we're surrounded. Thank you, Congressman Jackson, for letting us know. Thank you for that. Thank you. And our Palestinian brother wants to present something to Reverend. We're going to do that, but as we do this, because we are running short on time and we want everyone to get their food today, Betty Magnus, we got a couple of minutes. We are remembering so many of our brothers and sisters who have made their transition. Got a couple of minutes to give us this tribute to all of these people.
Thank you. Today we remember Isaiah Anderson, Fred Lee Adams, John Amos, Dr. Gloria Johnson Bacon, Margaret Sharkey Banks, Lonnie Bates, Commissioner William Bill Beavers, First Lady Adrienne Berryhill, Frankie Beverly, Joanna Brownell, Ida Mae Bryant, Jenny Lee Burton, Reverend Walter Slim Coleman, Justin Cooper, David Charles Corey, Robert J. Dale, Mother Helen Dixon Davenport, Sylvia O. Davis, Commissioner Dennis Deere, Cermise Franklin Evans, Dr. Joel Ferguson, Doris Ford, Alana Joy Ford, Tomanika Fortune, Maria Diane Fowler, Chase Franklin, Michael Gilliam, Nikki Giovanni, Lou Gossett, Dr. Emil Hamberlin, Michael Hughes, Sissy Houston, Jerry Hunter, Prisdale Chris Hurst, Tito Jackson, James Earl Jones, Quincy Jones, Ricky Jones, Mother Rosalie Jones, Charlie Joseph Jr., Reverend Dr. Stanley Keeble, Midge Kimberly, Louis Lou Kreinberg, Queen Sheba Lawson, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, Doris Moore Levy, Mother Ann Lowry Lightfoot, Joe Lieberman, William Bill Lucy, June Moon, David Milliner, John Mitchell, Jesse B. Neal, Cheryl Parsons, Benny Payne, Congressman Donald Payne Jr., Richard Phelan, Robert Pennington, John Pilot, Cornelia Neal Pittman, Marion Robinson, Carolyn Robinson, Sandra Teresita Salazar, Margaret Marcy Sharkey, Jerome Jerry Simmons, Reverend Mother Helen Sinclair, Calvin Bernard Smith, Joe Stroud, Lena Jacqueline Taylor, Reverend Dr. Curtis Thrasher Jr., Attorney Thomas N. Todd, David Tregay, Dawn Tregay, Marvin Turner, Joe Vernado, Cleveland Walker, Royal Mickey Warren, Ruthie Mae Wiggins, Dr. Walter Williams, Mother Minnie Wilson, Clarence N. Woods Jr., Sylvia O. Woods, Honorable Karen Yarbrough, and Doris Zoller. Any errors are those of the mind and not of the heart. Thank you.
Come on, everybody. Our sister, beloved Carolyn, come before us. You have a special treat. You keeping push people united to serve humanity under the Christmas tree.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carolyn Johnson, and this is my son, Marcus Wiggins. And we're here. I'm here to show my appreciation, to push, and to let you go. No, Reverend Jackson, you are loved, and you deserve more of what you've been getting because you have done a lot. And I believe if it wasn't for push, I don't know where we would be right now. But I'm giving $1,000 contribution in the honor of my son, Marcus Wiggins, to the Push Excel. Thank you. Love you.
Thank you. Come on, everybody. As we are leaving, we have our Palestinian family here with us. You wanted to give Reverend Jackson something. Please come forward. Please come forward. Yes. And you wanted to give Reverend Jackson, I'll just come over to you. You are?
My name is Naja Abdul Karim. I am the president of Palestinian community. I like to thank Mr. Judge Jackson about Adventists as Palestinians always, and supporting stop the war in Gaza. I'd like to thank you all on the behalf of the Palestinians. Thank you very much.
Come on, everybody. Sister Brent, you wanted to acknowledge? Thank you. Sister Brent, please come forward very quickly. You wanted to acknowledge very quickly. Where is Reverend Jeanette Wilson? Please come forward. Very quickly.
Thank you. Good evening. Good morning, everyone. I just want you guys to know I am so back at home. Robert Taylor Home, DuSable High School, Breadbasket, Operation Push. That's my guy right there. He knows it. Reverend Jackson, it's so nice to see you. I was watching the broadcast last week, and we must listen to the angels' voices when they say, go see somebody. They said, go see Reverend. And that's why I'm here. I'm glad to see you too, Santita. So I have someone up here with me who came to the western suburbs when Buffalo Wild Wings asked a black man to move his family so a white man could sit at a certain table. I called somebody here when the young man that was going to District 204 school, Naperville High School, was put on an auction block on the social media to be sold as a slave. I called somebody here when it was time for someone to come and march with us. And when the Martin Luther King breakfast was reinstated by Mr. Dan Goodwin, who is standing here today, who had not had that breakfast out there for 8 years in the western suburbs after Dr. Carroll left Benedictine, it was Mr. Goodwin, who has now passed away, who came forward with $25,000 to lunch that breakfast off again. And last year, we raised over $200,000 for underserved black and brown communities because Regina Brent insisted that that money go to families of color who are in need. So it will come back again in January 2024. And when it comes in 2025, it will be our keynote speaker, Mr. Attorney Fred Gray, who represented Rosa Parks when she sat on the back of the bus, and he represented another lady, Claudine Colbert, when she was 16 years old, and they used Rosa Parks to make sure that you and I can be sitting in this lay of the land at that time in 1955. So thank you, Reverend, for all you do. But that person that I'm talking about, I called on several times, and Reverend Jackson sent her, was Reverend Jeanette Wilson. And we just want to present to you from the committee and the black community of DuPage County and the African community of Chicago for your services that you have bestowed upon us for many, many years. And we love you, and we want you to know, thank you. She recommended that we read the book. Where do we go from here? Chaos or Community? Get that book by Dr. King. And also, hold on to this because it's fragile. We're going to put it back in the box. We're going to give it back to you. I have also a gift here for Reverend Jackson and Mrs. Jackson for Christmas.
Thank you so much. Everybody, have you had a wonderful time today? I can't hear you. May God bless everybody. Merry Christmas. And for those of our brothers and sisters who are not of the Christian faith, may the spirit of Christmas be with all you. May you be blessed. God bless you, everybody. Merry Christmas. Come on.
We shall overcome. Come on, help me sing it. We shall overcome. We shall